Hello, hello. I am Cassie Brown, and I am thrilled to welcome you to the Amplify My Impact podcast. After years of consulting and managing programs for some of the top entrepreneurs, CEOs, and marketers in the industry, I am on a mission to expand our contribution, to grow, scale, and create more so we can do and give more. This podcast celebrates entrepreneurs who are boldly stepping up to own their calling, expand their influence, and stretch outside their comfort zone, who've decided to stop playing it small, pick up the mantle of contribution, and serve at a higher level to lead by example and light the way for others. If that's you, then get ready to amplify. There's a fire that burns inside your soul, and we're going to ignite it into a roaring blaze of unstoppable momentum. Hi, everyone. I'm Cassie Brown. Welcome back to Amplify My Impact podcast. And I am incredibly humbled and excited with introducing you and sharing with you just the wisdom and guidance and heart of our next guest. I've had the pleasure of knowing Tom Shipley for, I guess, going on 3 years now, and just watching him serve and grow and just his genius unfold. And I'm really, really excited, and I want you to pay attention to what he has to share and offer, because right now he represents, like, he's in the middle of transitioning and selling a company that he's personally sold over $1 billion of his own personal brands and products, and transitioning into co-founding a new company that is named Centro Brands, and their number one goal is to invest and build and buy Amazon businesses. And just the incredible impact that he was just sharing over just some notes that we were going back and forth with on what to cover on this podcast. And here are some numbers and where we want to take the show. We're centering around the conversation of why not add a zero? Why not look and to see what the fullest potential and dream bigger with the impact that you can make, not only in the companies that you bring to life, but also the team that you cultivate to build it. And I just want to lay the foundation, Tom, because it's so incredible just to see what you are laying out and setting out to do with literally creating a new company and going from 0 to 1 to 3 billion within this market space. It's almost like unbelievable to see that, and I'm really, really excited to have these conversations over because you know you can do it. You've done it before, and we've talked about things like that, like with the mindset of being able to put this into play and get it into action. But I'm really just excited for you to share like your firsthand opinion on how all of this even comes to be.
So where do you want to start, Cassie? And it's so great. By the way, the energy and the giving that I've seen you do for 3 years is just incredible, and how you've impacted people's lives. Also, as I've done a number of masterminds and I have a lot of really smart people there, the person that one of the people I look forward to hearing from most when people are looking for feedback is you. You always give very thoughtful, practical input, and you look at things from a different perspective. And so when someone's giving their issue and sharing what their issue they're looking for feedback on, I'm always hoping you're on the call, because I lean to your advice more than most anyone. So it's just an honor to be here with you. And if there was anyone that I have talked to, or we talk about people that aren't playing at their level yet, it's you, because your capacity and capability is clearly a tier 1 operator. And some people know I was in special forces, and I'm always looking for tier 1 operators. And I see where you're playing right now, but I see where you'll be. And I'm so excited to watch you on the journey, because I know what you're capable of. And there's not a lot of people that have the capacity and capability that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will take that as an immense compliment, because I know the breadth and depth of your experience. And I'm almost looking at today's interview as a challenge, because I know I shared a little bit about where we were at as a company, and I'm looking at this where it's like I'm seeing that underlying challenge, like to continue to rise, to not limit yourself. So around that topic in the conversation, you were sharing on just your outlook of what you're building. Like you're making the declaration, but you're also creating that team that's going to run that $1 to $3 billion business today, right? So when it comes to having that mindset and knowing at the level that you're committing to play at, we touched a little bit about talking about creating and cultivating the team that is going to take the hill with a smile on their face, right? And I wish I had been recording and just listened to the way that you explained it and the way that you were positioning it. So I want to just pass that back to you and sort of like cue that up for that part of our conversation, because I think that as impact driven entrepreneurs and even entrepreneurs and business owners in general, we get so bogged down into what I can do by myself that we totally underestimate the leverage of a team and the importance of decisions that we're making today that's going to affect the next 2 to 3 years of our businesses.
So thanks. And I want to set the table and remind me, because I do want to talk about the story about building the teams and give some insights. And first of all, is my goal today is to challenge Cassie, you and everyone that's listening, challenge you to think differently. And just some quick thoughts and quick background on me. And remember that our history has basically doesn't define us. Our history prepares us for what's in front of us. And the problem is with our history is instead of leaning into the lessons and how it should accelerate our future, we get stuck with these stories in our head and these limited beliefs. And I can promise you the difference between the most successful entrepreneurs and the ones that are stuck are just simply limited beliefs. And if someone, it depends what aspirations are. And I can share this with you. The person who drives a UPS truck, who goes home to their family, he or she goes home to their family every day at 5 o'clock and they're done. And they've worked their ass off in the day, and then they go to their kids' soccer game or football game and baseball game, and they hang out at night and they have good friends, and they're happy. To me, that is the most beautiful thing in the world. And ultimately, it is about what making you happy in life, because that's really what we're all in it for, because we have one novel to write. It's we have this responsibility to create this epic novel, but the novel that we write in every chapter, which I view as 5 or 10 years of our life, is for us to define what that is and what that's meaningful for us. And if someone else is writing your novel, or the stories of limitations are writing your novel, only one person can change it, as you, and you have to invest time, energy, and I'll say sometimes dollars to help rewrite those stories. But if you're living your own life on your terms, regardless of what you do, it doesn't matter. Now, for those people that are entrepreneurs, and I'm going to say it's almost a curse to be entrepreneurs, we want to create, we envision big things. It's kind of interesting on Clubhouse. This past week, someone asked Elon Musk, what would you say to encourage entrepreneurs? And he said, if I have to be encourage an entrepreneur, they're not an entrepreneur. And it's not what advice you give. Well, there's plenty of advice to give entrepreneurs, but encourage, because there has to be this fire inside of you. So who I'm going to be talking today is those entrepreneurs with that fire and that desire to build something unique. And sometimes it's not defined by zeros, but I'm going to share that whatever your vision is if you're holding it back and not really feeling like you're realizing it, it's mostly because the stories and why you procrastinate and overthink and overplan is because there's limited beliefs. So that's what I want to talk about, and I want to challenge you. And the answer is yes, we're going to talk about why not put a zero on, or why not put 2 zeros on, because sometimes it makes it easier than harder into your idea. So let me just quick story back is I'm a kid from Cleveland, Ohio. Decided at the age of 20 to quit University of Florida State to have the biggest impact. I thought I was passionate. I'm Jewish, passionate about how I can build this very young country, Israel, and have my impact. So I quit university. I went home to my dad, who my dad and I right now have an incredibly close relationship, and I'm gifted to have this friendship that has gone for 30 years. But my friendship with my dad isn't my whole life like it is now, because growing up, it was not a very kind household to be growing up in. Outside it did, but internally no, and reasons why I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do it and I wasn't good enough. So I said, Dad, I'm moving to Israel. I'm 20 years old. I'm going to start having this massive impact and I'm going to move to Israel. I'm going to join the army and be in special forces. And his answer was, Tom, when you should really stay in university. Besides, if you were there, you'd be pushing papers as a bureaucrat, an admin person. And you tell me that, and even though I have all these negative stories, and I said, okay, I'll show you. So with that, I moved to Israel. Imagine this, the numbers are very simple. It's 170,000 person standing army, 60,000 in combat units. There are 4 top units that have on average 13 to 24 people per year that get into it. In the unit that I picked, which is about airborne rescue and saving lives, one of the top 4 units, the numbers that year was over 10,000 apply, 10,000 are picked to go through the first one-day battery of test. Of those, they pick 1,000 of us that go through a hell week. Out of the 1,000 of us, ultimately, and they try to break you during that hell week, physically and mentally, and test everything, including your integrity. That's a story for another day. Ultimately, there were 25 of us that were picked to go through an 18-month course. 18 months later, there were 13 of us left. And so what does that have to do with anything other than some of the greatest lessons that I have learned, that helped me out through entrepreneurship? I learned in the army about leadership, about tenacity, about prioritization, about discipline. Again, there's so many different lessons, but ultimately, the first lesson I had about dreaming big and having that visualization was, I didn't know the language. I wasn't Israeli, so I didn't understand the cultural norms. So I don't speak the language, cultural norms, preparing for the army. And physically, I wasn't a real big athlete. Yeah, I ran, but but I wasn't a great athlete. So what made me think, and I went and moved to Israel, when I told people what I was going to do, you know what the response was in this very sharp, cynical nation? Is laughing at me. It'll never happen. You'll never get in. It's impossible. And American has never been, American Jew has never been allowed into that unit. So what makes you think a new immigrant would ever get you in? And again, you can listen to the stories of other people. You can listen to the tapes in your head of why you're not good enough, or you can choose to have that vision on what really, imagine yourself in that position. And what I did that period of time was I imagined myself in uniform. I imagined myself actually being part of the unit and in it, what my life would be like. And from that visualization and clarity, and the more clarity I got in that, nothing was going to stop my way. David Coggins, who's an incredible endurance athlete, Navy SEAL, talks about in his book that he actually talks about how he thought about quitting, and a couple times he quit, and then came back again. But in my mind, quitting was not an option. And no matter how impossible it was, and know how tired I was, I knew I can always take another step. Pretty soon I get to my goal, which is crossing the finish line, whatever that was. And that's what it was about. In an entrepreneurship, it is not easy. You're going to have the weak at knees moments. You're going to have moments that you're absolutely going to want to quit or take the pressure off. And the question is what do you do at that moment? What exactly do you muscle up to keep on going on? Because basically the most important part of entrepreneurship is having that focus and that tenacity to keep on going against all odds. Yeah, sometimes you have to realize that the business model you're on is not the right business model and it has to be pivoted. Sure, that's just smart, okay? But it's about the tenacity to keep on going because it's not easy, and the discipline. So again, incredible things. But when it comes to a vision I dreamt big, but you know something? It might not have happened that I could have been the 13th, but okay, so I would have been still around a great group of people. And as long as I go all in and give it everything, that to me is the criteria for success that I look for. So coming out of the army, coming back to the States, I started my first business I had $100 in my pocket. And it's not about, we'll talk about this over and over again. It's not about how much resources you have. I can't tell you how many businesses failed with unlimited resources of money and talent, but it's about resourcefulness. So I came out of the army, had $100 in my pocket. I saw a product in Israel. I said, wow, I can do this in the United States. Fast forward 6 months later, this product is selling in retail stores throughout the United States. I pitched to Woolworths, Albertsons, it was in drugstores, it was in 7-Elevens. I called one day, I called GM, Chrysler, and Ford. I said, imagine this. Imagine millions of these billboards in each one of your cars. And by the way, I'm going to be meeting with your competitor on Friday. Can I meet with you while I'm there? So that's how I was able to get meetings on the same day with Ford, the head of media and advertising for Ford, Chrysler, and also GM on the same day. Again, it was me out of my living room with a landline. We didn't, and that's was my business. But again, it's about being resourceful. So that was my first business, and wow, that's really awkward. So sorry. So anyways, sometimes your laptop just takes over, or some banner does. So when I went on is I started my first business about 5 years later. I'd say my first real business. It was my first ecom business, 1999. On top of that, I started mailing out catalogs, millions of catalogs. It was a T. Shipley catalog. I did some acquisition, including a division, Boise Cascade. But the same thing, it started with a dream, with a guy with no experience, with everyone saying you can't do it. And I said, yes, I can. And then me slowly becoming the person along the journey that I needed to be to build this company from start to become this $10 million business. But I had to dream big, and I had to be really focused and passionate about who I was and what this vision was. And everything was trying to level up to the next level. And after I sold those businesses off, 5 years later, I started doing consulting, and 3 years later, it was a new vision. What is that blue ocean? It was, let me take my playbooks on D2C marketing, direct consumer marketing, and how I market online and through print and through catalogs. And let me take this and apply it to the beauty industry and see if we can disrupt the beauty industry, coming up with a new model about how we build beauty brands. And I remember it was myself and my partner at that time. We were in an attic in living outside of Richmond over a horse farm. And we rented the top floor of a real estate office, but they were in a house. And I remember that we went, we were talking to different people and had this vision for the skincare company that we were building. And we were just doing prototypes, and our wives were having these get together in the house, testing this out. And again, we have nothing. And with this vision that we're going to build this business that's going to do $100 million a year in revenue. But it's the clarity of the vision. It's marshaling the resources in my network and growing my network to find the people that I need to do, from R&D to some small and support from investment perspective. It's us, as we got points of validation, going all in financially with this business. And if you don't think that every business, I haven't taken risk regardless. And this business, even though my wife said I couldn't do it again, we did go all in financially. And I remember, I thank God I have a very supportive wife. I remember one day I'm in the office, and my partner walks in. I'm filling out a piece of paper. He said, that looks like a loan application. You've already maximized your credit cards. You've mortgaged your second mortgage house. You got nothing left, Tom. He said, what are you doing? I said, I have 2 cars, and I can actually take loans out against my cars. And I think before our cash flow started turning around, we actually, I think, ate through the bumpers of both cars. Wow. But again, it's about resourcefulness, about how we did that, how we funded the business, how we actually find the opportunity to, we were still losing money, and we found a business that was a $15 million business that was doing $1.5 million of cash flow a year, had a team, had an infrastructure, had a CRM in place, incredible online marketers. And we didn't have any money left. We were losing money and barely figuring out how we're going to feed our family. Yet we said, we're going to buy your business. We gave them an offer that they didn't think they could refuse. And we went out and found funding, mezzanine funding, to buy the business. So here we are, no money, but we bought a business, and we paid $5 million for it. So again, how do you do that? It's about resourcefulness. And sometimes it's about using your network to find out the how to do things, and finding the people. And we found the right person that can actually help broker and get us the funding at that period of time, because we keep on finding is you don't need to know how to do everything. You just need to be able to find the people that get it with the right heart and the right intent that you're looking to marshal on your team to grow that. And that's basically what we did. And we turned that business, that initial hydroxytone brand that we created, did $1 million that first year. Fast forward 3 years later, we did $100 million in annual revenue. Over the years, we did $1 billion, over $1.5 billion from that brand alone. we did a brand joint venture with Christy Brinkley and Christy Brinkley Beauty. We identified the blue ocean space of women's hair regrowth and started the first real women's hair regrowth brand, and taking from the same playbook. Let's start it online. Let's do print ads. Let's do radio. Let's do short form TV. And if you think I knew how to do this, the answer is every step along the way, the answer is no. But you figure it out, you marshal, you build a team around you, and you recruit as high as up of a level you can of people that get it, that help you build that, and you work it along the way. And yes, fast forward a decade later, Karen owns the women's hair regrowth market. And right now we're in the process of selling that business off. It'll be closed within 30 days. So the last year has been all about what is the next big hill to climb. But no matter where you are in the process, please remember that entrepreneurship is tough. We hit, you have to really enjoy the process and understand that you will have those weak at the knees moments where you're questioning everyone and everyone around you is telling you to quit. But this is what separates entrepreneurs from employees is we marshal it up. We see ways in, we keep on asking the questions of how and why and how can I look at this different, and we find ways to make things happen, and we make things happen. And that's it. So even with this business, 2 years ago, we hit a massive wall and I almost lost the whole business. And we just dug down and leveraged the team, and we massive in-person action. And last year was our most profitable year we've ever had. Again, you figure things out, but that's, it's all part of the journey, and that's how I got to today. And we'll talk about in a minute of changing my perspective about what happened when COVID hit. But I'll let you ask questions or give any thoughts that you have, Cassie.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm always just impressed with your humbleness of your journey and the way that you share it with so much integrity and transparency. I have so much respect for what you went through, like within the arena of service and the commitment, like just being that 13 out of 1,000 to be able to make it through, right? Just shows like so much resourcefulness, sheer determination and will of everything that you just shared, where it's like, I may not have the answer, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to be all in. And I've got that level of commitment, and that level of commitment shows up in every single aspect of my life. So I'm so grateful, and I always love hearing your stories. I love and I respect it so much because it does help shift the perspective and what we're doing, and realizing what we're capable of. And so many times, like, we look at the safety of and we hide behind perfectionism, right?
Mhm.
And you spoke about risk, and you spoke about like just not necessarily having the answers, but having that faith in yourself that you'll figure it out. You'll lean on the team, and you'll make the investment to surround yourself with people who will equally be committed to figuring it out. So I guess that's where I'd like to go next, where I feel like that's a skill that you have, like that you see the potential in people, and we touched on commander's intent, but I almost feel like you command that of the network that you create, of the peers that you attract, and the companies that you build, where you not only inspire it, but it's a requirement. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. There's many of you probably know the story of Ernest Shackelford, who in, I believe it was 1912, led an expedition to Antarctica. And while he'd gone to the North Pole, and Antarctica and crossing Antarctica was just a feat that so many people had tried and died doing. And most of the expeditions, because they hit weather, their boats gets crushed by ice, especially back then. That in order to survive, people resorted to cannibalism, and it was just the probability of success was close to zero. And so Ernest Shackler said, "I need men that are willing to go with me on this trip, and how I'm going to fill up an expedition of it." So, like a lot of people did, you talk about the fame and glory, and you talk about how this can be a great adventure, and it's and not tell people about the risk. But not Ernest Shackelford. He took an ad out in the Times, and let me read it to you. Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. And then he put his name, Ernest Shackelford, and his address. And what he did is he recruited people that had that, as I said, want to take the hill with a smile on their face and with a grin and just for the adventure, and they understand the risk. So on that fateful journey, when they were going towards Antarctica, it was ice and cold weather set in. The boat actually got caught in the ice and then actually get crushed. They took the longboats out, and again, how can you survive in longboats? And they started the perilous journey from the longboats, and they got stuck on a glacier, and they had very limited rations of food in order to survive. And their stories about their team getting together and their crew and actually having soccer games on the ice and laughing and the journey that they had together and figuring this out, and how Ernest Shackelford did everything he could to save the men, and ultimately he did save most of them. And again, it's a great story to lead it, but the difference is the people that he brought on, and the commander's intent was very clear. This is what we're going to do. Here's the difficulty, and bring it in, and they figured it out together. And even when he took a small group of people to actually do what is almost an impossible feat for even people that have climbed Mount Everest a number of times, that final journey to go get help for his men and left his men alone is because they were the right people and they knew the commander's intent. They kept each other safe until Ernest Shackelford was able to bring back a boat to rescue them. But when you're looking to enlist smart people or the right people in your team, I always say try to bring on people in your team first of all that have the right hearts. I look for quality before I look for anything else. I look for quality, character, and fit. You can find. Excuse me, one quick second. I'm sorry about that. You can find a lot of qualified people, but ultimately, long term, it's about their hunger, their heart, the quality character. You want people that are smart, that get it, that have a insatiable quality to keep on learning and growing, and that to me is more important than anything else. I like people for certain positions. You have to bring people in from experience. Just make sure it's real experience and not pedigree. Sometimes people come in from the largest company, largest brands, and they do a small slice of things and they might not be real experts in it. I look for, it's funny, one of the things for this new company that I'm building, we look for 5 different parts of our culture we're defining. And number 1 is integrity. And there's 2 different words of integrity that I look at. One is the word integrity itself. It's that quality of character of who someone is. And the other part is, if you look at the 4 letters in the middle, grit, integrity.
Oh, that's so good.
And I look for people with this grit. And again, because ultimately, we're looking for people that have no problem rolling up their sleeves, not looking to kick back in some office and have high, expensive lunches. Because what great company would build that way? It isn't. Mm-hmm. And we're looking for builders, and people want to be. So I look for people that will follow that DNA and are very honest about what this is that we're building, with the risk and everything else that's there. But really, that people want to lead, want to follow people that are willing to lead, that are real. There was so many books have come out, including a book that came out from the founder of the Carlyle Group, and he spent so much time with so many entrepreneurs over the years, one of the largest private equity firms in the world, and funds. And he talked about one of the key qualities and traits he looks for leaders is humility. We think about old leaders, which is all about charisma, and live this way is, that's old school. Ego and charisma, and I can't tell you, more companies have died because of ego than anything else. Ego, not making good decisions. Ego, you look for a commitment bias because you believe something isn't true. You look for data to validate it versus always questioning and being open again. So that's just, and what I want in front of people is people that are open. People are open to ideas, to learning and admitting they're wrong. And that's what I want from the team, because ego will kill. I don't care how talented one individual is. One individual that is extremely talented can kill a company versus understanding a team can beat out one strong individual every day. So this is what I look at in building a team. And a lot of times it is, you need to level up. You need to understand that you need to be, feel comfortable with the fact that you're going to be uncomfortable, that the people you hire are going to have better, more expertise than you do. And that's what you want. It doesn't mean that you don't have a responsibility to know the ins and out of your business, to be able to help people move to the nether level. And you do that by questioning and learning. And again, there are different types of leaders. Some leaders know nothing about the details of their business. I'm one who loves to understand the details of the most important parts. And I'll give you an example. I know a big part of our business is driven by Facebook. I understand how Facebook works, how we buy, and where the marketing leverage is within Facebook, and some of the challenges that are going on right now. So I can have real strategic dialogues with my digital marketing team about how we're going to navigate some of the iOS 14 challenges and what are the different points of leverage to grow it. Have I ever been in Facebook Ad Manager and placed an ad? No. And would I get lost in a second? The answer is yes. So again, but I don't need to know that level of detail. I got great people that do that, but having enough level of knowledge. The other thing is that everything in your business impacts everything. Let me state that again. Everything in your business, all the aspects, it's a system effect, will impact everything. So you should understand, and you as the leader should understand the different impacts of what things can be doing and connecting the dot more so than people that are in individual departments. But I'll also share this with you that if you're a great leader, one of your goal is not to keep people pigeonholed into what their current role is. Your goal is to educate your team on much of the business as possible. And why is so that they're making great decisions and connecting the dots. Someone says, "Hey, we're going to do this," and they're in a different department, and it could really, we're making this operational decision because it is the right thing to do. It's going to drive down our cost of goods sold, and we're going to be more profitable. And someone in marketing saying, "Yeah, but that's going to kill our customer experience, and we're going to lose money in the end." So you want to be able to have a really smart team that understands the systemic impact of things to be able to have good dialogues. And having siloed organizations just doesn't work. So, but I look at some of the greatest successes I've had is because I brought the right people on. They understand my commander's intent. I don't have to micromanage them, do it exactly this way. They understand what I want to do and why. Mm-hmm. They understand the guardrail, so they're not taking risk the business. And they go. And the other thing I expect is just one of my keys is I tell every person ever comes to work for me, I want to feel in control. I'm a driver, but I want to feel in control without controlling anything. If you're looking for me to micromanage you, then this isn't a really good place to work. My responsibility is to really work tightly with you the first 90 days you're here so that you understand. I bring up to speed on why we do things in the business. And I want you to understand why we're doing things first. And then after you understand why and how we do things, then everything's up for grab. Then your job is to question everything we do every day. Yeah. But that's my responsibility. And then you to figure out a better way and you to challenge everything.
I love that. Just such a huge stance and commitment to empowerment and that individual contribution, right? Wow, like I'm almost speechless. Like the only other question that I really want to dig into is how do you get to the point in practicing that, because decision making is a skill. So how do you get to that balance of intuition and knowing enough about it to make that measured risk of a decision?
So Jeff Bezos says that if you have 100% of the information on a certain to make a decision, you spend too much time thinking about it and researching it. Your decisions you should be making, you should be able to make good decisions if you're a leader and you're smart on 70% of the information. And that's what you want to say is, do I have enough information to make a decision where I have at least 70% there where my assumptions are correct and I vetted my assumptions? And then a lot of times, yes, your gut, and the more you get experience in business, the better your gut is, and listen to your gut a lot. Yes, it has to be, and don't change the facts to follow your gut. But if the facts are there and your gut says go for it, then go, and that's just good decision making. The other, and I do On things that take a lot of risk, more risk, I get a lot more feedback, spend a little more time to make sure I have some different insights and some contrary view. If you have your team that say never challenge you, you're the wrong team also. Your team should not show you
That's so
disrespect
good.
and tell you no to everything and do whatever they want to. No, that's not talking about. But your team should have the permission to question and ask and challenge the way you think. And you should have our environment. I mean, my happiest days is when my team collectively are making better recommendation decisions than I make. It means that I can pull back and focus on something else. Great, I succeeded. A great, I hope my team's with me forever. But on the other hand, if they leave, just don't go to work for the same position in a competitor or even at the same level for someone else. Do it because it's a great opportunity to level up. My head of direct marketing in my first business, Shipley, he left me to be the first head of direct marketing in eBay. I went, great. That to me is success. Me is on the end of all when all's said and done, and I'm, maybe in my last days of my life, and I think back, it's about what people you had a positive impact on, because
Yeah.
that to me is the scoreboard that's there. And then with that way of just thoughtful about your people and giving, it also gets more out of people and has that dedication and loyalty that you're looking for. And because I opened a loop at the very beginning, and I feel I need to close it with adding zeros. So
Yeah.
I'll
That
share.
sounds good.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll share this with you. Is during COVID in March, and none of us knew what was going to happen, and we all remember the financial crisis and how many businesses crashed in 2007. And so when COVID hit, we didn't know what, and I could easily see a depression hitting, and I did not know the economy would last this long, and we'd be able to. I did not foresee that we'd keep on throwing cash at it to get us through this. So, and I know it doesn't mean that a lot of people haven't suffered and a lot of people lost their jobs, but I thought that my core business was in jeopardy, and my core business could risk maybe not surviving. So I wanted to create something else parallel for my family, and I started with thinking, okay, how can I create some additional revenue stream, affiliate marketing, just so there's revenue and their cash coming in, and I can focus on my business, but there's a little cash coming in. And I said, okay, well, let me keep on growing and learning. And I spent time with going through a 5-day challenge with Roland Frazier, which was about his epic challenge on how to buy businesses with no money. Brilliant, brilliant. Ultimately, it shows you 283 sources of cash not cash, 3 ways to buy businesses with no cash out of pocket, whether it's a Facebook group or whether it's a $1 billion company. It doesn't matter. So I took that and then went all in with this course and said, okay, let me understand this. I think it'd be better off for me to buying a business or businesses that go together and leverage what I just learned from Roland in order to do this. And then I started looking at platforms and marketplaces and identified, okay, Amazon businesses, they're undervalued. You can buy them at low multiples of what their net profit is or EBITDA is, and a multiple of that. And as you put them together, you're valued at a higher valuable, but it's easier to buy those businesses. And Amazon FBA does most of the heavy lifting. Wow, that's an incredible model. And then looking at that as a model, and then a good, and we're putting together plans, talking to people, and a good friend of mine said, Tom, why are we thinking small? Why don't you think bigger? Add a zero on. So went from how do you build the next $100 million business to how to build $1 billion business. Again, just a number. And the bigger I started thinking about this, I was introduced to higher level people, higher level networks, people wanting to jump in to this vision of what can be is what will become one of the new company is we will be the best brand scaling and building business in America, period. And we're starting with Amazon, but then there'll be other D2C businesses. And we're focusing on how to leverage technology and data and really great marketing on how to do this and making the rest of the business really boring. Again, boring, so it happens every day, operations, inventory, and everything else. And how do we acquire businesses at speed, but really leveraging data and analytics and technology and automation so we can scale from product development perspective as well as from a marketing perspective. big vision on how we could do this, but then doing the math and the models, and I started having just dialogues with some private equity firms with that not much in place. I'm used to dealing how difficult it is to raise money for businesses. It is difficult. It's difficult to do buyouts. And suddenly we're having this concept because we're at the right concept at the right time. And suddenly getting a number of private equity firms to give us term sheets to fund us. And we're not talking about $1 million in funding. And it was the bigger we're talking, the easier it was. So raising $100 million, and right now we're 2 weeks away from closing on this. Now, again, part of it, the success of this was enlisting the team, thinking big, and bringing people on with the journey as co-founders and partners. So I look at some of my partners that are in this business. It's a couple of the leaders from Amazon that they built out the Seller Central and the Amazon Marketplace. The person that actually was the person who developed Kyle Walker, he built out Amazon Exclusives. It's a multi-billion-dollar platform where they invest in brands. Again, and then their network is listing incredible. It's gravitational hires that are being pulled into our ecosystem as we build this, what will be one of America's great companies. And yes, it's no longer this idea, how do we build this $100 million business? It is, this company will be a multi-billion-dollar business. And these are big numbers. They're just numbers, and it's all math. And remember, started with nothing here. Again, it was just a concept and a goal, and right now to make this happen, I've had to go all in. I've funded along the way. And again, been scrappy and resourceful on how we do things and leveraging relationships. But my network of relationship, because we're going for something big, has also increased exponentially, which is making the next phase possible. So, anyways, what I challenge you to do is just, instead of ask why not, say, okay, imagine with, and even if all you do is challenge, even if it's a theoretical exercise, think about your business at a different level and envision yourself there. Picture about what it would be, but put it to the next level on steroids. And also, as you get your team in place and as you can support more infrastructure, more systems, more people, in certain ways, it becomes easier because you don't have to be you're not doing everything yourself. Yeah. It doesn't mean if I dream big, that doesn't, by the way, we're closing the funding, and right now I'm spending on time saying, okay, I need to have a merchant account. I need to have a bank account. I need to do all the foundations. I need to make sure every acquisition that we do, we have a clear plan on how we're going to grow these, again, relatively small businesses. Part of what this big portfolio is going to be is we start with the end in mind. We have the strategy and tactics, but ultimately we have to focus and make sure that tomorrow's taken care of and we have that plan in place. But I'm going to challenge each of you to say, think big. And if your business idea isn't big enough, then pivot. Nothing's stopping you. You're not stuck in your current business. If you're not enjoying it, if you can't see yourself doing this for the next 5 or 10 years with a smile on your face, then the one thing I'll leave you with is there's no such thing as golden handcuffs, whether you have a job or whether, and we all might say, well, I can't really risk my revenue. There's always a way of making things happen. And I built all my businesses moonlighting. Yes. And even this business, I haven't put in crazy hours for a while, but for a period of 4 months, I was averaging close to 19 hours a day. I yell at my daughter. I thought I was crazy because I'm always in this off doing. But again, I have a business to run. I'm building it, but this is something I'm passionate about. So I did the work, put in my time, leverage my networks and my time. But it was going all in and saying we have a lot of time during the day. That means I wasn't watching a lot of TV. I had to sacrifice a lot of time with my family. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to do that for the long term because family is life. But for a period of time, you make the investments. So.
Yeah. And I thank you for sharing that, like the level of resourcefulness, because when we all start out, like you said, like we start out when we're running everything literally from our kitchen table or like you said, the living room, and you are every department that exists within a business entity. And then we cultivate and we grow a team, and then we start dreaming bigger and we start dreaming bigger. And I appreciate this perspective so much because, and especially what you shared, like working those 18 and 19-hour days, because I experienced it myself, literally between, after the holidays in December through January, just putting the finishing touches on our first 10K coaching offer. And that was a huge mindset shift and milestone for me, and in many regards a huge pivot for our business. But in listening to you, like, it's inspiring because it's like, what more can we do? Right? Like, that's not our ceiling. That's not what um is the end all be all. And so I appreciate the perspective shift, and to see, what else is there, and to allow yourself to, like, what would it mean to add another zero, and not so much like for the personal impact, but like for the global impact that we can make with our team members that we bring on, with the community that we're able to support, with the
Mhm.
nonprofits that we're able to support, um, and the opportunities that we're able to create. Right. And I think that's the most beautiful thing that I see with everything that you create, is that ultimate ripple effect. So can you speak to that as we wrap everything up? Because I think that's the biggest thing that I've struggled with as an impact driven entrepreneur, where it's like, at a certain point I have enough, but beyond that, we can leverage a heck of a lot of our resources and our talent to grow bigger for a very specific purpose.
And that's exactly it. Is the more significant your organization is, the more impact you have. If you have more wealth, then great, you have more wealth to give, more people you can impact. If you have a bigger team, it's more lives you can impact. In this business I'm thinking about is that we have a different orientation. We're buying people's businesses. We're having people that have been busting their tail for 3, 4, 5 years, building their businesses, struggling with cash flow, and we're going to make these people millionaires. And then that's not good enough for me. Is I want them to be part of this community now of people that we buy out, and give them more skill sets and make their next opportunity bigger. And in my mind is, how can every entrepreneur have 2, 3, or 4 exit events? Not just one, 2, 3, or 4 exit events. And can I facilitate them so they can hire more people, have bigger impact, and have a better life themselves? Oh my God, I can be transformational. We can help give them masterminds access to information. Imagine if they think about their team the same way we think about our team, and growing and enhancing the lives of that. And again, everything is this ripple effect, as you say. And it's about just giving out there and having that positive impact to people's lives, whether it's your team, whether it's your vendors. And it does come back to you, but that's not why we do that. We do this because ultimately is, when all said and done, what do we measure life on? It's the people, at least I do. It's what the impact I have on this world and the positive impact. And to me, it's um, at this period of my life, it's through building companies and organization. At the next point, it'll be pure philanthropy. But even my philanthropy is going to be entrepreneur oriented, so that ripple effect and growth happens. So,
I love that. Tom, it's an honor to know you, like, even more of a blessing to call you friend. Thank you so much for spending the time here and just sharing not only your story and your journey, but where you're going, and challenging all of us to add a zero and think about what that could mean. And like you said, no obligation, just run the exercise. And I think what's beautiful about that is, as soon as you just open up the possibility, it all comes right back down to mindset. When you open up the possibility and you see the numbers on the paper, you see a new reality that that you're literally just a decision away of stepping into, and just a few key moves, that you don't have to have it all figured out, but just trusting and knowing that you will have it all figured out. So I want to leave the last word to you as we close out. Like, where can people connect with you? Where can they follow you? And then any final thoughts that you have. Again, I cannot express enough just how much I appreciate you as a friend, as a mentor, as a leader, and so much that you're creating, so much good that you're creating with what you've envisioned, and that vision is so powerful. So thank you for sharing it.
well, I appreciate you, Cassie. I appreciate your constant giving to the community, and even the the kindness that you've given to my family and my daughter Ayala as she started her entrepreneurial venture and journey, which has been incredible. And I appreciate that. And you have an amazing family. Adam's fantastic, and just give him my love. And final thoughts. We're going through times of change, and either you can be fearful in times of change or know that change is good. Change is painful. We all know that. But breakdown is the context for breakthrough. And every time I have a breakdown, I say, oh my God, why do I have to go through this again? And it always turns out at the end, it's the context for breakthrough. It's context for change. And that's incredible. And sometimes you can throw yourself into change just so you can have those breakthroughs. And sometimes you have to change your perspective, and sometimes it happens to you. Sometimes you put yourself into it, or I needed to change a perspective. And sometimes you go to another room. And in our case, we moved to another state. We moved from New Jersey down to Texas, but it helped change orientation. So what I can encourage you is that as we go through these really scary times and times of changes, understand that put yourself a year from now, and what would the you a year from now be saying to yourself today? What would the Tom Shipley a year from now be saying to Tom now? Be fearful of change, or know that it's always going to end up fine. You're always going to figure it out. So just relax, smile, enjoy the journey, and challenge yourself. And yet dream big and just follow what you're passionate about. That's it. And let me know your journey. Where you can follow me, as my website is www.tshipley.com, tshipley.com. There's ways to get and contact me there. And then I'm always posting on Facebook. Okay.
Awesome. And I know you've been spending some time on Clubhouse, so I definitely want to figure out how we can continue this conversation over there, because I think we've opened a lot of doors and curiosities to expand the discussion. So unofficially, I'd love to host that. And I'm sure that we can follow up and make it happen. But thank you again. Like, there will never, ever be any words. Like, I remember the first time that we met and just how generous and kind you were, like, from the first conversation. And I hope everyone, well, I know everyone experiences that from you. And my hope is that more of that will be contagious out in the world. Like, more people will show up that generous and that kind and that open. So with that, everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here and spending time with us on Amplify My Impact. And we will see you next episode. Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I hope you've received value, encouragement, and exactly what you need to help keep you in momentum to grow and impact the world around you. Big or small, we all make a difference. Thanks also for subscribing, downloading, and leaving a review. This helps us reach others who need this message in their life. If you know anyone who would benefit from this podcast, please share, so you and I can help more people boldly step into purpose. It is my heart's mission to help and encourage others. My internal belief that a rising tide lifts all ships. So much of what we talk about on the podcast is leading with value and building relationships through service. So we've created a collection of resources for you to continue growing, whether you are just getting started or ready to scale your business. Visit amplifymyimpact.com for show notes, downloads, programs, and more information about how to directly work with our team to amplify your impact and change the world.